Welcome back. Live from Just King's World on my hip hop ish. We present to you Dope Read. Dope Read is a series and a collection of books that is meant to elevate your mind, your thought process, to get you on the next level to being a better person, the best version of yourself. We are covering hip hop books, also other books that can definitely bring you to your higher self. Right now, we are still tapped into 2 Chainz book, which is called The Voice in My Head is God. We are right now entering into chapter number 9, which is called B.O.A.T.S, based on a true story. We're going to get right into it. On my first solo project, I had the opportunity to work with some amazing artists. I worked with Kanye on the creative side. Virgil Abloh designed my first cover, which was black and gold with 2 actual chains being the only image. In thinking about the visual representations for the album, I sat in meetings with phenomenal artists and witnessed the seriousness with which they treated artistic work. That was extremely inspirational. I mean, they had real think tanks where everybody would come with their own ideas and individual creativity. Those moments were not only vital to the artistic production of my first album, but also a reminder of how important it is to keep brilliant people around me. They say you're only as strong as your weakest link. And during the creation of my first album, artistically and musically, we had no weak links. Everybody had a voice. Everybody had a role. Everybody was tuned and tapped into the highest realms of their individual creativity. Man, everybody was listening to their own inner voices, which created crazy momentum for what would eventually become a masterpiece. I remember moving around in 2012 before my album came out and going to the All-Star game in Orlando. Even though I had already known that I was one of them ones, I was shocked to see how many people there knew it too. As soon as I walked in, everybody was yelling, 2 Chainz, like everybody on the floor from LeBron to Dwight Howard. That All-Star game was one of them ones with legendary ballers, Kobe, D-Wade, D-Rose, Carmelo Anthony, all kinds of killers in their prime. My seat for the game wasn't the best. I was up in the stands with the general population, probably like 20 rows up. My jewelry was shining though, so I wasn't tripping. I had already been a fan of some of those players like LeBron, who's a good friend of mine now, and D-Rose, which made it wild to hear everybody yelling my name. 2 Chainz, 2 Chainz. I'll never forget sitting in my seat and looking down toward the floor, knowing that's where I was supposed to be. You ever had that feeling? It could be at work or at some kind of social setting. Maybe you're waiting in line at the club and you see folks walking past the line and right in. There are moments where literally or figuratively where you just know you're not where you're supposed to be. When something is telling you that you either should or deserve to be someplace else. I'm fine being in general population when I want to because I come from those margins. I come from the dirt. But I'm also a front row kind of nigga when I want to be. And something wasn't sitting right with me when I looked down toward the floor and saw my peers enjoying the festivities. I got to moving around, moving how I normally move. Remember the phrase, act like you're supposed to be there. That's been with me my entire life. I won't say I acted because I'm not an actor, but I always moved like I knew what I was doing most of the time. Most of the time I do. From the time I got my first pack to my first time in the studio, I've always presented with true confidence. More on true later. And because that's in me, I started making my way courtside like fuck it. I mean, I'm walking past security like fuck it. Mind you, they're asking me for my badge as I'm moving, but I'm not making any eye contact. I'm just acting like I knew what I was doing. At some point, I remember seeing Wayne courtside. I knew once I got close enough for him to see me, it'll be all good. So I just kept on walking. The closer I got to courtside, the more celebrities I started to see. The person I remember the most was Mary J. Blige. She was damn near courtside, and she was like, hey, 2 Chainz. I can't lie. It was one of the few times in my career that I was a little surprised somebody as iconic as Mary knew who the fuck I was. I was and still am still a fan of Mary J. Blige. I remember thinking, damn, you know me? You really know me? Immediately after that, I ran into Drizzy Drake. He was sitting courtside chilling. Now, me and Drake had already met back in '08 on tour with Wayne, so we already had a rapport. The vibes between us had already been established, so it was like seeing an old acquaintance. Before Drizzy even opened his mouth, I told him, boy, have I got something for you? He was like, cool, let's work. I kicked back the same sentiment. Hell yeah, let's work. Here's the funny thing about confidence. It can have you stuck between a rock and a hard place real fast. I told Drizzy I had something for him but was lying the whole time. I didn't have shit for him. Not a damn thing. I was literally just capping. What I did have outside the arena was a tour bus that I paid for, and that tour bus had a studio in it. In his book, The Luck Factor, British psychologist Richard Wiseman wrote, people are often convinced that these opportunities are the result of pure chance. They just happen to open a newspaper at the right page, come across the right page on the internet, walk down the street at the right time, or go to a party and meet the right person. But my work revealed that these seemingly chances, opportunities are the result of lucky people's psychological makeup. Excuse my word. The way they think and behave makes them far more likely than others to create, notice, and act upon chance opportunities in their lives. I left that basketball game and went straight to the tour bus ready to work. Shit, I had an opportunity in front of me that I had to capitalize on. I told my engineer, a guy named Jack, to find something we could put that boy Drake on. He got right on it. And at the time, it was a producer by the name of Mike Will, whose production we had in the vault. Back then, Mike Will would be so persistent that at times it would irk me. I couldn't be mad at his hustle, though, and how much he wanted to make things happen. I'm talking about the mixtape days. I was thinking about my boy Mike Will, and I pulled up one of his beats. There was this little melodic part on the beat, and I was thinking, I bet that boy Drake would kill that part. I was so sure of how great our chemistry would be on the song, I did my verse right there on the bus. I did my verse like boom and sent it over to Drizzy. He responded immediately like, man, this shit hard. Let me sit with it for a minute. Weeks started to go by until I haven't heard nothing from Drake. The anxiety of wanting to kill was killing me because I was wondering what he was doing with the track. Another week went by and my impatience had reached its height. Something told me to do another verse to liven up the track and send it over. I did another verse, which meant I was on both the first verse and the third verse. The track still had holes in the second verse and there was no hook. It took a little bit to hear back from Drake. And when he finally sent me something, I plugged that shit right in. Man, I goddamn knew it was a hit right away. As soon as I heard real nigga say true, you ain't never told no lie. Fucking epic, no lie, would go platinum. It became one of the biggest songs for my debut solo album. Another record that went platinum was Birthday Song featuring Kanye West. I had performed at South by Southwest and both Ye and Big Sean came out and rocked with me. We ended up kicking it on my tour bus, and I remember sitting down with Ye and playing him some beats. There was one song I had been sitting on that I just knew was a Ye song. I knew he would love that song. Ironically, when I played it for him, he was like, man, play something else. I was surprised and disappointed. I went on and started playing some trap shit, some ratchet shit, and a bunch of other shit I had in the vault. Something told me to go ahead and play shit that I could never imagine Ye on. I played Birthday Song with just me on it and watched him completely come alive. Up until that point, he seemed completely bored with the shit I was playing. Nah, that's the one, he said out loud. He was completely sure. Ye jumped on the song and afterward I got it mixed and mastered. I sat on the song for a minute because I didn't want to do anything with it because letting him hear the final version. Ye so busy that I didn't want to bother him, but eventually we ended up being in the same place doing some kind of fashion show together. I was in the back picking out looks, and I remember saying to Ye, I need you to check this out. I played the finalized version of Birthday Song for him, and homeboy was like, man, give me that. He took it, sat with it, and put a new mix on it. It came out crazy. That part of Ye's genius. His creativity is so expansive and his ear for music is really profound. We knew we had a hit. We moved quick to find a director to shoot a video for it. We had a blast on that set. The track was dope. The video was fire. That whole motherfucker was out of here. It's been said that people are sponges, and we learn most of our valuable information from the time we're born until around first or second grade. Those experiences become the data that makes up our personalities. By the time I was in the second grade, I knew how to do everything from ride a bike to tie my shoes to many other things. I also experienced domestic violence and a drug raid by the second grade. With intuition, with inner feeling, I had been able to trust myself. I had to learn how to be okay with something seeming weird or feeling weird or out of place or when things seem unexplainable. Being connected with your inner self is truly an unexplainable act, one that is connected to a higher power. It can feel like you have superpowers. Sometimes you may feel like you're a psychic and see something before it happens. I swear, I can think of someone and then that person will call me or text me. Or I might call or text someone because their energy might come to me out of the blue and they'll be like, I was just thinking about you. And I'll be like, I know. That's how strong my mind is. My telepathy is. When you have that voice you hear, you got to be open-minded and willing to trust yourself, knowing that voice is coming from a safe place. It's coming from a true place. Although trauma-ridden or struggle-ridden, or even if you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, it's very important to grow and learn and grow. You shouldn't be afraid to be odd. You shouldn't be afraid to be different. Hence my classic record, I'm Different, with the repetitive hook and dope lyrics. As great as it was to have experienced the success of records like Birthday Song and No Lie, I'm Different going platinum hit harder than any of my previous success. No Lie went platinum, but that had Drake on it. Birthday Song went platinum, but that had Ye on it. I'm Different was the first time I went platinum for a song that was solely mine. It was 50% producer and 50% me. Totally my idea, and 1 million people bought it. 1 million people had my idea. To be clear, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with collaboration. I enjoy working with other artists when the chemistry is right. It's a great way to create high-level music. Me and other artists have collaborated to make monster hits. But I'm a person who prefers to drink out of the cup of reality. I wasn't doing too much celebrating or getting too intoxicated by the success of certain hits when other artists contributed greatly to the music and helped get the idea across to listeners. With I'm Different, it was just me. It was my song. And I was finally able to be inebriated off the truth. The cup of reality. I was in London, about to go on stage when I got the news that the song had gone platinum. I remember looking in the mirror and patting myself on the back. I thought about all the labor I spent in the studio busting my ass every damn night. I smiled, not just for me, but for my people. 1 million people was rocking with us. 1 million people had bought my idea. My intuition was a driving force behind the creation of I'm Different. I had been different my entire life, and something told me to talk about it, what it means to be different and stand out. The production was a West Coast beat by DJ Mustard. Mustard is from LA. I actually met Mustard, YG, and Ty Dolla $ign at my studio at 5540 Old National when I had still been trapping. My guy Poon brought them niggas to the studio around the same time YG and Dolla $ign had a song called Tooted and Booted. I already felt like me and Mustard had camaraderie, so it was easy to catch a good vibe when we started working on I'm Different. The West Coast has never had a problem with being super liberated or standing out. They have never cared about what people think of them and have been standing out individualism since early on. I mean, think about NWA. West Coast folks would dress, look, and express themselves to match what they felt inside. I always thought that was dope. Choosing a West Coast beat that only maybe 4 or 5 sounds, that only had maybe 4 or 5 sounds, was the perfect pairing for the direction of that song. A different kind of beat for a different kind of song. I'm Different was a song meant to celebrate all individuals, everybody, whether you're queer, straight, or whatever. I particularly thought about the outcasts out there, the unique individuals who, like we say now, stood on business to protect their energy and their aura. Experiences become data and ultimately informs your personality. I wanted to create a vibe that people could relate to. However you choose to be different and true to yourself, I'm different is your anthem. That's the end of chapter 9. What you think about that? I definitely respect 2 Chainz for giving us that story. All 3 records that he mentioned, I'm Different, which is all him. No Lie with Drake and Birthday Song with Kanye, those are all classic records, man. Definitely classic, man. Much respect to him, man. Definitely came a long way. Let us know your thoughts on that chapter. If you made it this far, leave a fire down in the comments. We're going to be right back with you on chapter 10, which is called Remind Them by Rebranding. All right, off to the next one.